St. John's.
Hello everybody, my name is Jason Piercey, and this is Out of the Fog. Tonight, we're gonna talk about Newfoundland. Old Newfoundland. Like last summer when I drove out to Brigus to see Randy Spracklin, who lives out there. He owns this little construction company that they made a TV show about called Rock Solid Builds, and we walked through some of his projects. We had a look at some things because season 3 is coming up. And yeah, why don't you just go see us and Randy? It was fun. Enjoy.
Flat out, give her.
Bam!
Big kitchen, big open space. I'm Randy Spracklin, third generation builder, proud Newfoundlander.
All right, folks, here again, I told you I was going to come back and talk to you as you got into season 3. In production, in season 3, Rock Solid Builds, the lovely and talented Randy Spracklin. We're standing in one of the projects that is going to be aired here. We're going to talk a little bit about it because, of course, being in new home construction and renovation on the real estate side, this fascinates me. Like, I grew up in this. My father, all of his brothers, my grandfather, all contractors. I mean, third time around, I don't feel like you lost a step.
Oh, definitely not. We never missed a beat.
Okay, so let's talk about what's coming up from in the season, projects, and because this is, I mean, it's a battle. We're still dealing with from like the business side, the production, not the production side from like making a television show, but the production side from renovating and building stuff. There still holds up and delays and materials and.
It still is crazy. You know, we're still in a pandemic. We still got supply chain issues. You know, we had so many roadblocks on the way it goes through. And you know what, it's real life. We're dealing with homeowners. It's their forever home, so they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, and we got to pivot all the time, which when you pivot and you're trying to get supplies now, delays. But hey, we'll manage to get it all done.
Oh, listen, I have no doubt. I've been watching along. I have no doubt that you're going to manage to get it all done. Okay, we are currently standing in one of the properties that I mean, thanks for taking a minute to put your hammer down out there and come over and have this conversation. So it looks like we're in what would be an extension to an older home that we're adding some square footage to.
It is. This is an older home, went back, you know, their father owned it, so they're handing it down to them. She's actually living in Ontario right now, her and her husband. Oh. So this is kind of, yeah, they moved up there and worked all their lives, and they wanted to make this home. Their father kind of passed it down to them. So we're creating the space here, main bedroom, sitting area. We're going to have a nice washroom right here, walk-in closet, but we got everything inside gone. Like it's not a thing left.
Yes, there's nothing, just more hair on my face than it is construction in that room. And that's an interesting way to put it. Okay, when you're getting into older homes, because that's like, because you love this community and you've got generational roots here, it's sort of, I guess it appears to at least be one of your favorite things to take something somebody else says can't be done or can't be saved. You got to tear it down. There's old timber framing. It's all, and you're like, no. It's like that's what you like the most.
You got to save. I grew up here all my life. So as a kid riding by, I seen their father Bill out here painting the house. This was the well-maintained house. Like, the yard used to be immaculate. And believe it or not, right where we're standing, this used to be an old store back in the day. So you used to be able to come over, you know.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, it used to be a convenience store back in the day, and then they had to tear it down.
And now it's going to be a toilet. Like,
now it's
you were standing. Like, that's interesting.
It is, yeah. So kind of, you know, went from their father, Bill owned it, and then they wanted to do something with it. They wondering, you know, should they tear it down? And I was like, no, definitely not. Got a whole lot of good structure inside of it, you know, put a new floor, build the addition on, and here we are.
So when you're looking at, and you said this one's always been well maintained, you had your eye on it, you've been in this industry a long time, and you've been here a long time. So maybe you didn't have the same concerns here, but when you go into a place that's older, because there's a lot of places 100 years plus out in Brigus that like could use a little bit of work, right? So when you go into one of those places and the client is saying, well, I want to take this wall out, and I want to open this up, and I want to do that, and I want to move this over here, and the electrical and blah, blah, blah. How often are you like, what's behind that wall?
I never worry about it. Whatever's behind there, it's, hey, it's only solutions, so no matter what's behind there, we can work with it. It's wood. You can build it.
It's wood and nails.
It is.
Literally do anything with it.
So you can think of anything, and we'll build it.
I would like to send a challenge out to all of Roger's audience. What is the weirdest thing that you could think of Randy Spracklin could build it?
I would love that challenge. Actually, I accept it. If you can think of the weirdest thing to build, we would build it.
Oh, I feel like this is a really bad idea in the most amazing, beautiful way. Okay, so we're in season 3. What can the audience? I know you got rules. You can't be drifting to because this is like a little secret behind the scenes thing. Like this is you're not on the air yet. We're doing some stuff here to let people know what's coming. Give us a little bit of reel us in.
It's it's going to be like other seasons. Amazing builds. Amazing things with the team. We're in the salt water this time. We might have to do a little bit that we might end up having to jump in because someone, that was loud and said that they wanted to have a bet. I don't know who we're talking about loud, right?
I don't know. It doesn't sound like anybody.
I was roped into it.
Doesn't sound like anybody I saw on your show.
And then we're doing a chicken coop.
A chicken coop?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is going to be no normal one. Like I said,
how could it be?
This couple, this was one of those challenges that they thought of. It's like something you see on cribs, but for chickens.
So basically, you're pimping your chicken coop.
Pretty much, yeah.
This is like exhibit, pimp my ride.
Pretty
kind of
much,
style.
yeah. Chairs there, flat screen TVs. He wants rock solid bills too, boy.
That's true. Okay, I got a question for you. This might be tough to answer. When you were first thinking about taking your business and telling stories through television to give people an idea of what our place is like from an authentic way. Because I think the authenticity of you and your team is what makes this play. Like who they see on TV is who they're going to run into if they catch you playing darts at Legion. Like it's going to be the same. That integrity, that authenticity is big. So what is something that you thought was going to be really hard about the TV thing that you're like, oh, this is actually like, this is way better than this is my favorite part. Like, are there, like, what are the misconceptions, the things you thought that aren't? Because you're into 3 seasons now. You've learned a lot, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. We learned so much. And, I guess first getting into it, you really were wondering how the rest of the world was going to kind of look in and see what it is. But you know what? So much good reviews, so many people coming. Like, the amount of people coming by the shop is amazing. So that was the thing that we were all a little bit worried about. Look, we did this on answering an email and never really went looking for it. It kind of fell in our laps, and here we are. We went on TV. Being, the number 1 the first season, we're actually number 2 in this time around. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, it's just everybody, there's hardly a bad thing said about it.
Do it make it hard to get work done? No,
Yeah,
and not like it don't make the work harder, but the time it takes,
It's funny. Where we're standing right now, we're sticking this wall. I was in the excavator, and the whole team were down here. And then about 3 carloads of people pulled up, jumped out, wanting to get their picture, running over the wood, running over the saws, nails flying everywhere. I'm in the excavator, and we're like, whoa.
So if you were watching this, and Randy's contracting company has their liability insurance through you. This is not a real story. He's just joking.
That was for TV. That was for TV.
That's amazing, man. It's so cool. So it happens, and there's nothing you could do. It just is.
Well, and that's the thing about being so real. One of the ladies were taking pictures of me and saying, "All they done is you're in the excavator doing it. What you see is what you get."
Yeah, that's not staged.
No.
You'll run the mini-X, you'll do that. You'll do those things. Or this person does this part of the job.
And the beauty thing about it, we're always being with the film crew there, we know them well, they know us well. So we had a good little prank there not too long ago with a tub you'll have to tune into. We got everybody good.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, plumbers were in on it, we were in on it.
So that stuff's not staged, though.
Oh, it can't be,
you would
right?
do that anyway, right?
We would do that anyway.
Yeah.
Then I almost won
watching
$20, but then they let the cat out of the bag.
That's hardly worth it. It should be worth more than $20. Randy, thanks so much, man. It's not just for taking the time, but for being the same dude in this chat that you were if I ran into you at the embassy down on, Duckworth or whatever, or that, like, if I came in and you were swinging a hammer, same dude all the time. That's why all of Newfoundland and all of Canada and internationally, people love Rock Solid Builds. Season 3 is gonna be deadly.
Oh, it's gonna be deadly.
Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, man.
I think I may have undersold Rock Solid Builds when I said that season 3 is coming up and it's going to be deadly. Everybody over at the province, the country, international, we all love it. And one of the things we love about it is how good Mr. Randy Spracklin is at taking something very old and then making it new, but keeping its character. Now, before this quick break, just listen to this. It was a fitting day for celebration, because not only had Mary risen on high, but as the day went on and the bottles of liquor were consumed, so too had many of the men. If only through an alcohol gaze. The alcohol beverage of choice was rum. As a very young boy, I remember observing the men out behind the parish hall during the garden party, passing the bottle around to their friends to gulp down a generous swig of the newly acquired and rarely obtainable liquid. The common parlance of the time was, get to the bottle for the garden party. Often, the consequence of this rare drinking splurge was the settling of old scores and inter-family quarrels, usually by engaging in hand-to-hand combat. At that time, fighting in public was a rarity. At that time. Then, everything changed. We'll be right back with author Bill Kennedy right after this. And welcome back, friends, to Out of the Fog. I would like to introduce you to Mr. William Kennedy, Bill Kennedy. Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming to have a conversation about something that I particularly find fascinating for a couple of reasons. One, I love where we live, where I grew up. I grew up in a small town. And you wrote a book about the transformation of rural Newfoundland called Then, ellipses, Everything Changed. And it appeals to me for a few reasons. And I'm going to get into them probably as a theme throughout our conversation. But to me, July 1st, and Canada Day, and so I've had lots of interviews with people here with Rogers TV and Out of the Fog, who were around during Confederation and what it meant to them or what it didn't. And some of those people are veterans, some of those people were homemakers, and some of those people just watched it happen. So your take on things fascinates me, and so I want to talk about that. You wrote, Then Everything Changes. So, bird's eye view. What's this about?
It's about basically growing up in a small, isolated community, and I mean really isolated community, back in the 40s and 50s, on a small isolated community on the southern shore of Newfoundland in Trepassey. At that time, the community, I grew up in Shoal Point, there was no integration there was a number of communities around that area, like was Portugal Cove, Biscay Bay, Trepassey, Shoal Point, Daniels Point. There were 4 or 5 communities, but they were all
Which is common across Newfoundland. You get off of the highway and there's a string of communities.
Exactly, yeah.
But now we refer to them as like one.
One, almost, exactly.
Right?
And this is what happened in Trepassey. So that was what it was like when I lived there at that time as a younger boy. And what I've done, I've taken that life that I lived as a young boy in that isolated community before that kind of integration took place, and wrote about it in the first part of that book. And I talk about things like what the part that nature played in our development and growth, the things we ate, the things we For example, we grew up, we were what I call in the book earthy people. Mm-hmm. Our supermarket was our root cellar. So we knew everything. We knew that everything we ate, we knew exactly where it was. It was in this part of the garden. Yeah. It was in that part of the garden. It was there and that. And fish, for example, that we ate, we knew it came from that sea that we lived by. So we
very
knew
self-sustaining.
It was all self-sustaining. And it was what I call in the book nature-based. We were part of nature. Nature was us. We were nature, and nature was us. And our life was the essence of nature, because we knew exactly what nature did. Nature sustained us. Nature gave us what we needed. Now, we had to work nature to get there.
Hard. Really hard.
But it was there, and that part, I cover that part of life there. Also, the culture that developed within that small community, which to me was fascinating. Culture is like, to me, in the book there, and I define it as everything we are, everything we do, the way we think.
Sure.
So I thought of like culture.
Everything that is ubiquitous about your community, everything that is a foregone conclusion, all of these things, you can almost make assumptions about anybody or anything at any time, because life is only what we are here and what is around us and our nature, and it permeates every bit of it.
Exactly, and what I try to do is such a broad, like I talk about nature and the nature of rural Newfoundland, but then if you talk about the culture of it, you have to I broke it down into three distinct things. I broke it down into religion, and broke it down into the arts and work.
Sure.
Our work, how it influenced our culture. So when I was writing that part of it, I took religion and talked about the influence of the church in the small community.
And of course, the Southern Shore of Newfoundland, very heavy Irish Catholic lineage.
Exactly.
Not the only things, but very heavy Irish Catholic.
And it was a dominant force. You know, we talked today about the rule of law. Well, our rule of law was really religious based.
Well, I mean, that's where Commonwealth law started, with the church. So, like, that's not strange.
And so that was very much ingrained into your lifestyle, was the church. And then there was the arts, which we don't think, well, it's very little. There was a lot of drama and music developed within that particular confines of that specific little nest of community.
And also those come sometimes from necessity.
Of course,
because you need entertainment, you need something, and craftsmanship is the same thing. Like you weren't gonna drive down Kenmount Road, stop at one of 5 furniture stores and pick up the table that you wanted. You were gonna saw, you were gonna chop, mill, craft, the things that you needed. So they've come from necessity.
Yeah, the things we use, for example, box cars and long cars and slides for the winter, they were all crafted and made right in the community. People made them themselves. Didn't go out and buy one. You didn't have money to start with, but you didn't have to because you made it yourself. So yes, you're right. That was part of that whole cultural thing as well. And of course, music and drama and that sort of thing. When I look back on that, I always think it sort of flowed from the community. Like very few of the people who were singers and songwriters went to Juilliard or one of the schools of music,
course, right? Yeah.
But they had that kind of ability or whatever and creative ingenuity to do these things.
And this is what grew or was fostered through the dependency on nature, the dependency on one another.
Exactly,
and
and
the requirement to self-sustain.
Yeah.
But then, everything changed.
Yes, yes, and that was the sort of lifestyle, where you had that, and the work ethic, of course, was part of that. And people worked hard, as you said a minute ago. People worked very hard, and it was, I always, looking back on it, as sort of servile, you know, and it was very labor-intensive work. You know, we call it blue collar, call it what you like, but it was that.
But it's almost like the concept of entitlement only exists now. Like, like then it wasn't like, well, you know, I just deserve to have these things.
Oh no, exactly.
No, nobody deserves anything.
No.
The only thing you are entitled to is the right to try and create it.
Yeah, and you were dominated, you see, by certain entities. For example, the merchant class in would-be St. John's at that time. They dominated one of our income, because at that time too, and I should mention this, we lived in a truck or barter system, right?
Yes.
My parents, my father fished, so he brought his fish to the merchant, who gave him food for his fish.
Yeah.
And if he was a very generous mode, he gave him some money, because we didn't have a cash flow. We never thought about a cash flow, right?
No, do we have enough to eat?
Do you have enough to eat? So you had this food. So that was the kind of system, I guess, that we lived in for that many years. And then, as the book says, we got this thing came, and I didn't go into this again. It's not really a history of this, but it's my interpretation. Then came this notion we could become part of Canada. Now that was a notion that was around for a number of years, as you know, and you know, but it came to us at that time, 1949, and most 50% or more of the people saw it as a good thing.
Sure.
And based on what my book talks about is based on that kind of lifestyle that we lived, and based on the fact that the world was changing at the time too, you know. Everything didn't change in the world had changed, but we remained the same. But then, with this Confederation coming on thing, we voted to change.
Yes.
And it was that change that moved rural Newfoundland from a truck barter system of activity and an economy that really wasn't functioning very well, to a more of an economic, money, financial-based economy.
So, if we take where we are now, and the quality of life now, what's available to us, I think it would be hard to create an argument that the majority of people would support that we aren't better off. In retrospect, but we're talking about something that's like nearly 75 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
Was there a feeling at the time that we weren't better off and we should not have done this? I mean, looking back now, we're like, yeah, okay. It was hard for a long time, but clearly, right now is a better place to exist, or it's easier maybe. Maybe you get less accomplishment from eating a thing that you created, but.
Well, it was a difficult thing to bring about, the whole idea of Confederation, as you know, and but there were a number of people who were opposed to it. You know, the leaders of the community were very strong in that, and the church, the Catholic Church, in where I lived anyway, was opposed to Confederation. They saw it as I guess, a godless big country coming in to take over our
which is sort of
small community.
Sort of ironic.
Yeah.
Because Christianity by definition means, well, Catholic by definition means universal. Exactly. The whole idea is we want to take over everything. Yeah. So there's some hypocrisy in the church saying the big monster of a large organization.
Yeah. So there was that, and again, I'm generalizing to that, but there was that, and then the merchants and the sort of what they call then the well-to-do, I suppose, and the people who ran the economy of the place. They didn't want it because they were kind of happy where they were. You know what I mean? They had it pretty good.
Well, did this create a middle class?
Yes, I think he did, actually. Yeah, I think he did. Yeah,
Mr. Kennedy, where can people go to get this?
Well, it's published by DRC Publications.
Yes.
And Jason, we just.
So you can go to drcpublishingnl.com.
Yeah, but I have a little list in there I wanted to share.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, please do, sir.
And this is because there's so many places you can get it that I had to write it down.
Wonderful, let's do that.
Because it's in St. John's, it's in chapters, and it's in Coles, it's down at down Homer, wherever they have outlets there.
On Water Street, yeah.
But it's also down along the southern shore. I have copies at the Irish Loop. I have them at Ultramar in Cape Royal, and Foodland in Ferryland, in the Loop in Fermuse, and the Edge of Avalon, that's the Portugal Cove South, the visitor centre there. And of course it's in Trepassey, in the convenience store there in Trepassey. And also I have an email. If people are interested in contacting me, my email is theneverythingchangedbook, one long word.
Perfect.
@gmail.com, so they could contact me through that.
Wonderful, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to get through this because I have family who grew up on the southern shore, and I find it fascinating. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Out of the Fog. Sure, yes, everything has changed, and for most of us, it is for the better. However, I do miss driving to visit Uncle Clarence and Aunt Bet up on the southern shore and having to stop along the way to let the sheep cross the road. So there is something about that. There's a romance involved there. Luckily, we have people like Randy Spracklin who maintain those old things and still make them comfortable and beautiful. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
If you have a comment about this program, we'd love to hear it. Email or call us, or send us your feedback through social media.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. Life has changed for all of us during the pandemic, and many